Us right now on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop, is ESPN's Brian Windhorst, NBA insider. Of course, everybody knows who he is. Brian Windhorst and the Hoop Collective podcast as well. And hopefully Brian is not in a hotel room with somebody next door yelling at him, and we can actually complete this interview with no issue. Brian, thanks for joining us. I first obviously have to ask you about the Draymond Green play last night and your thoughts on what happened.
Yeah, so I think three things. Number one, I don't think he'll get suspended, which I don't think is a hot take, because Sabonis grabbed him by the leg, and that was a contributing factor. Secondly, if you're a Kings fan or if you're the Kings, why do you want him suspended? You want to beat the Warriors straight up. And I wouldn't want there to be any asterisks or any people trying to talk it down. Like I've seen people try to say that that's why the Cavs didn't win the 2016 finals. And third, the Kings already got their benefit, because I don't know how the game would have gone if Draymond stayed in it. The Warriors had some momentum and they were really hurting the Kings with the pick and roll coverage. And not only that, had he just let Sabonis tackle him instead of stepping on him, not only would it, but a technical, they might have even called like a take foul, a fast break stop foul, and they could have gotten two shots in the ball. So Draymond already did the Kings a favor with this.
Was he trying, do you think, to bait the Kings into something there, to either get in their heads or juice up his own team, or maybe a little bit of both?
No, I just think he stepped on the guy because he was pissed off that he was holding his foot.
I agree with you, Brian. Brian Windhorst is with us here on Cattles and Rami, Sactown Sports. Brian, just to let you know, lots of Kings fans are unhappy with you for reporting that teams were eyeing that 6th seed because they saw the Kings as more vulnerable. Rami and I have said, look, Brian is just reporting what people are telling him. It's not Brian's take that the Kings are more vulnerable, but those people that told you that they were eyeing the Kings as the 6th seed, do you think any of those teams feel differently yet after watching the first 2 games of this series?
Well, I think obviously if the Warriors or the Suns or the Clippers had their preference, they wouldn't have had injuries to their players, and that they would be up there with home court in the first round and not having to worry about maneuvering and trying to fit into a certain slot. But they had to play the hand that was given them, and the hand that was given them was, how can we figure out a way to maybe avoid the play-in, which nobody wants to do, but try to get us into a slot that's more advantageous? And so it's just game theory. It has nothing to do. I mean, if you're this is a great opportunity for Suns fans, because it's a total free roll. It's a total honeymoon. There's no expectations. It's just all fun. And after everything the Kings fans have been through for the last 17 years, you guys should enjoy every second of it. Beat your chest, dance around, have fun, tell people who doubted you you're full of it, enjoy all of it. It's a glorious time. It's very rare in the NBA that you can have expectation-free success. It'll only get more difficult from here. So I say enjoy it to the hilt. But if the roles were reversed and you were a Warriors fan and you were with the Warriors, you would have wanted to play the Kings too. But the one thing the Kings have on their side, they are definitely inexperienced, but it also means they're younger, and that means they're faster. And that's one thing that Mike Brown has put in his game plan. Yeah, they may not have all the rings and the experience, but their legs are fresher, and he has put that into their attack, and it's made a huge difference in the first 2 games.
Have you been surprised by how well the Kings have handled the pressure of the playoffs? Because it was experience that most people were pointing to in calling the Kings a mark, or picking the Kings to win this, or picking the Warriors to win this series.
Well, I think there were 3 reasons why people looked at the Kings as, of those top teams, that was a team you kind of wanted to face. One is they were young and experienced. 2, their defense for the season wasn't stout, especially at home. It's strange that a team this young would be better on the road than they are at home, but they are. And historically, and by the way, the person who taught me about NBA defense was a guy who was obsessed with defense from morning to night. You may have heard of him. His name is Mike Brown. I mean, when I got to know Mike Brown in 2005, and I would cover a game and the Cavs would lose 87-85, he would say, well, we should have only given up 84. That's how he looked at it. If I had showed Mike Brown a video of this year's Kings back in 2008 and told him he was the coach, he'd have passed out. He would never have seen himself playing like that. But so one was the inexperience, and two was their defense, and third was the Kings had the best injury luck of anybody in the league this year. They had the fewest missed games of anybody in the league. So if you're a team like the Warriors, who watched your team beat up all year, or the Clippers or the Lakers, you were like, they're in third place. But if we hadn't had all of our stars out for a third or a half of the season, we'd be ahead of them. And so that's what led into that. And again, I am all for the Suns for using it as a chip on their shoulder and dancing around on it. But I mean, in fairness, you can see why they may have thought that.
Brian Windhorst, ESPN NBA insider, of course, is with us here on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Brian, let's jump to some other stuff aside from this Kings-Warriors series. There were some tweets and also some columns written yesterday about the NBA getting rid of the charge rule or changing the charge rule after Ja Morant and Giannis were both injured on similar plays. Do you think the NBA would ever entertain something like that?
Yeah, they may look at it, but those things take years to do, and they're never going to get rid of the charge. But I think what they may look at is the idea that a guy can slide into position when the offensive player is already in the air. But I'm going to be honest with you, it's already one of the hardest calls in the league. And if you do that, you're only making it harder on the officials, and you're only going to cause more problems. But obviously, when two star players get hurt on the same day, it's very disconcerting. And sometimes stuff like that can cause change, but it takes time.
Is the West as wide open as it may seem, or do you think there is a favorite out West?
No, I mean, I have no idea how it's going to go. I'm in Phoenix. I'm doing this Suns-Clippers series, and tonight the Suns are under pretty significant pressure to tie this series. So, Ja, not 100% sure what he's going to look like tomorrow night. How healthy that wrist is going to be. So there's a lot of questions, and we're getting what we want. I think there's several different underdogs who are ahead right now, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out.
Last one for you, Brian. And again, thanks for the time. I know you're busy. If the 76ers don't make it to the NBA Finals, could it be an offseason of change in Philadelphia?
It's possible. I think just in general, one of the things that is real in this year, and this is one of those things that, again, the Kings and their fans should be happy that they live in an expectation-free world right now, is there's too many teams that are too invested in the success in this season. And there's just, there's a finite amount of success. Philadelphia is an excellent team. There have been years in the last decade where that team would have been the number one overall seed and probably would have crushed their way into the finals. Now they're the third best team in the East, and there's a very good chance they could play great in the next series and still lose to Boston because Boston is better. And then you're looking at a team that has James Harden as a free agent and all this pressure on Joel Embiid and having to deal with signing Tyrese Maxey with a team that went home in the second round. And we got the Clippers and the Warriors, who both have payrolls north of $350 million, and both of them could be home after the first round. It's because they're running into difficult situations, and it's hard to have success year over year. So, hey, that's why we want to watch and see it play, and that's why we want to see the playoffs every year.
Great stuff, Brian. Thank you for the time. Again, it's much appreciated. Let's do it again soon.
Take care and enjoy.
All right, there goes Brian Windhorst, ESPN NBA insider. Brian Windhorst in the Hoop Collective podcast as well. He was on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline.